back at it, and I'm going to keep it real short, brief, and simple. We got a big fight tonight between Terrence Bud Crawford, who is back now for the first time since his win over Errol Spence Jr. last summer in the mega fight. And we have him going up against Uzbekistan's finest, Israel Madrimov. 10 wins, no losses, only 1 draw, and he has 7 of those wins by knockout. Terrence Crawford moving up to 154 to get that belt, that WBA title from Madrimov. Here's how I see it. I have Terrence Crawford winning this fight. However, I think this will be Terrence Crawford's, maybe one of his toughest fights. I think people don't know who Madrimov is. They don't know what he's about, what he stands for, where he comes from. They barely know his name. But they're going to know his name after tonight, win, lose, or draw. Because just like Terrence Crawford's a junkyard dog, this man is a junkyard dog, man. Be ready for this guy. Do me a favor and look up 2 fights, and you'll see why I see this fight playing out this way. Look up Timothy Bradley versus Provodnikov. This is a fight that happened almost a decade ago now. And then look up the fight between Israel Madrimov and Eric Walker, I believe. And this was over lockdown, maybe 2021 or something like that, somewhere around that time. And you'll see exactly why I think this is going to be a very difficult and unique fight for Terrence Crawford. So let's look at the tail of the tape here real quick and break down how I see the fight playing out. So you have Israel Madrimov, 29 years old, already went through the record. He fights orthodox, but he also fights southpaw. He's a switch. He fights from both stances. He stands at 5'8.5" to Terrence Crawford's 5'8". And then he has a 68.5-inch reach compared to Terrence Crawford's 74-inch reach. So Terrence Crawford has a 5.5-inch reach advantage over Madrimov. However, you go ahead and look at Madrimov and you'll start to see why this fight is closer than people are probably anticipating. So look at his resume, and I want you to go down to, I'm looking on BoxRec, and that Eric Walker fight that I talked about, it was on August 15th, 2020, almost 4 years to the date ago. And first off, Eric Walker, he a dog. Shout out to you if you see this video. I saw that fight. I know you didn't come out with the win, but you made a fan out of me by the you were a junkyard dog in him. You were a junkyard dog in that fight, just like Madrimov was. And even though the fight should have ended in a stoppage with the punch that he took, he fought Madrimov very well and he pushed him. It was one of those fights that stylistically I think is similar to the type of style that Terrence Crawford has, or at least the build in certain ways. He had a 73-inch reach, and I think he stood at about 5'10". But it gave Madrimov a chance to experience that long wingspan and see what it was going to be like to try to take that explosiveness that he has in his lower body. He leaps forward with that left hook. If he's sitting in that orthodox stance, he'll come through with that leaping left hook like you see from Gervonta Tank Davis at times. I forgot the nickname they have for it. But where he's sitting here and he'll launch forward with that. This opens up and then he has that down to a T. And then he has that looping overhand right. Kind of like you see from Triple G in his prime. He just doesn't have the height and the reach that Triple G had. Triple G had like a 70 or 70.5-inch reach. So it was a little bit different, but damn if he ain't almost a clone of Triple G. With the mentality, the mindset, but he's not quite as polished. He'll take more chances than Triple G does. He's more of an explosive athlete than Triple G was, which makes him very intriguing and entertaining as a fighter in his own right. And he really took it to Eric Walker. Eric Walker, I think if anybody else was in the ring that night, Eric Walker probably wins that fight. And moving forward, he deserves another title shot. But Madrimov, he came out and he controlled the fight. And I urge you to look at that DAZN podcast with the sound off. Don't let the noise influence how you're seeing the fight. Because the way I was seeing it, they're like, oh, Madrimov's in trouble. He's gassing out. But I'm looking at the legs. I'm like, first off, Eric Walker if I'm his trainer, his coach, work on the calves, work on the thighs, and build your base up strong, because if he had a stronger base, I don't think he gasses out later in the fight, because it's not that he got tired because he doesn't have stamina. It's because when this guy that's so active is putting that pressure on you, you are forced to fight at a pace you're not used to. And if you don't have the base solid, like rock solid, like Terrence Crawford does, then you tire out. You don't have the same steam on your punches. And once this guy doesn't respect your power, it's just a matter of time. And he keeps his head down. He takes a lot of the shots on the chin, on the top of the skull, or he turns with it. So even if you're throwing a side punch, he's turning down with it. So he's taking a lot of steam off of it. So he's getting punched. You're like, oh, he's hitting him with solid shots. He is. Like, he's getting hits with some shots flush that he shouldn't. I'm not denying that. But a lot of the shots he's getting hit with, the youth along with the technique is not hurting him like those commentators were thinking. I'm looking at it, and I'm seeing him in that, I think that 7th or 8th round, and Madrimov was gassed. And they're like, oh, he's getting tired. I'm like, yeah, he's tired, but he's not fading. He's just taking a little bit of time off to try to get his win back. He knows his second win's coming. He's just like, let me keep my chin down. Let me if I'm gonna get hit, let me brace for every hit. I'll take him. Just let me get to that 9th round and recharge, and I'm gonna be back on this dude. And I was watching that fight, and I've been learning a lot about biomechanics these past 2-3 weeks, and I could see it. I'm like, yo, if he doesn't knock him down or really hurt him right now, it's just a matter of time before Madrimov walks him down. Not because Eric Walker is a bad fighter, but because Madrimov, at least in terms of his lower body explosiveness and stamina, he's just better conditioned on that night. And boy, did he turn it up. And he got robbed of a knockout. So he's like Provodnikov. If you go back to that other fight I mentioned, Timothy Bradley, Hall of Famer. Shout out to the Hall of Famer. He took that fight with Provodnikov, another Eastern Bloc fighter, if you haven't guessed by the name. And he fought him flat-footed. He didn't have to do that. You know why Tim Bradley fought him flat-footed? And I think Tim Bradley, if he's watching this video, he'll confirm it. And I think he said it a couple times. After that win over Pacquiao in the first fight, where people were adamant that he did not win that fight. They thought Pacquiao got robbed. I thought Pacquiao won the fight as well. I love Tim Bradley, but I thought Pacquiao won that fight. The next 2 fights, those were the real fights. The second and third fights were the real fights. The first fight, Tim Bradley did not win that fight. And Tim Bradley, I think he took that, he went into solitude, and he took that and he said, yo, these people are, they think I'm not a dog. They think that I got gifted a decision. Okay, I'm going to go out and show these people exactly what type of junkyard dog I am. And he didn't have to do that, but he did it. He stood toe-to-toe with Provodnikov, and they both probably took a year off of each other's life with that fight. And he went out there, and at a certain point, they were both out on their feet, and they were just throwing punches. But Provodnikov is that type of junkyard dog that could bring that out of a Tim Bradley. And Madrimov, it's like he has the same type of, he's molded in the same cloth as a Provodnikov, but he's just much more polished as a fighter, which is why this is going to be a good fight, depending on how Terrence Crawford fights this. And this is how I see it playing out. You have both guys that are pretty much the same height, but one has an ape index off the charts, i.e. he has super long arms, 74-inch reach. That's one inch less in reach than Marvin Hagler had, almost at the same size. So that, to give you some perspective on why Terrence Crawford is lighting up boxing right now, he's almost a clone of a Marvin. He's almost like a modern day Marvin Hagler, with I would say a little bit more of a mean streak, if that's even possible. Because Marvin Hagler, he was just always like, his mindset was seek and destroy like the Terminator. Whereas Terrence Crawford, I think at times, and this is why I think this could be an interesting fight, sometimes he comes in there and he's sitting there and he's downloading the data, and it takes him getting hit one good time to wake him up, and then that mean streak comes out. However, if he tries to fight Madrimov like that, if Madrimov is able to get a shot in and he decides I need to get it back in blood, it's a coin flip. If he's able to hit Madrimov flush from range with that long wingspan, he can stop Madrimov. Maybe not instantly, but given a couple of rounds, by round 5, 6, 7, he might be able to stop him. But if he goes in there wild and reckless, like he was in, I think the Postall fight and a couple other ones, even the Sean Porter fight, he's swinging wildly at times, not always, but he'll have these little lapses at times. If Madrimov catches him, he can knock Terrence Crawford out. That's why this fight's so intriguing. So, if he gets reckless, it's a 50-50 fight, and Madrimov can get Terrence Crawford up out of there. Don't be fooled by the stature and the demeanor. He is a junkyard dog that is there to snatch your soul. Please trust and believe that. But if Terrence Crawford comes in there with the same mindset that he had with Errol Spence, whether that's coming out and meeting him in the center of the ring and establishing that jab, or whether that's letting Spence, start to try to come in with the jab and establish the jab, taking it away and then countering. If he comes in cerebrally like that, very patient, I have it as a 65-35 fight in Terrence Crawford's favor. But if he comes in there sleepwalking, or if he gets too reckless, especially if he gets clipped and he wants to get his pound of flesh back in blood, he can go from being a favorite in my mind to getting his first loss. So that's my thoughts on the fight. Overall, I think that Terrence Crawford will win the fight, and I wouldn't be surprised if he's able to win by stoppage by round 7 or 8. I think once he's able to establish the distance and timing, I think he'll be able to stop Madrimov. Because Madrimov, he has like a variation of the pendulum step where he doesn't like jump back and forth. He just... So, if I'm seeing that, then I know that Bomac and Terrence Crawford saw that long before they chose to take the fight. So, if they're able to have an answer for that, then I think that Terrence Crawford is going to have a win, but it's not going to be an easy win. But he will earn that win. But if he gets away from the game plan, or if he's reckless, or if his ego gets in the way at any point, Madrimov is not just a live dog. He has a strong possibility of winning. But I have Terrence Crawford by stoppage in, let's say by round 8. But regardless, win, lose, or draw, you guys are going to know. I think that Madrimov is going to make his name known. So let me know what you guys think of this, and I hope you enjoy the fights. I hope you're safe this weekend, and this might be the new setup. Catch y'all in the next one. Peace.